Welcome everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we're talking about how the Nintendo Switch completely destroys the Nintendo Wii U, and it's not even close. So, what I mean to talk about here is how the Nintendo Switch has been a much better era than the Wii U. And why I'm talking about this today is because recently both the Wii U and 3DS had their online services come to a complete end. And understandably, many are now taking to social media to reminisce about the wonderful things for both of these consoles. And there were wonderful things about these consoles. But some are going so far as to say that the Wii U era is better than the Switch era. And I just blatantly disagree with that point. I think it's laughable at best, and so I figured it would be a good idea to talk about how the Switch era has been so much better than the Wii U era for those that are attempting to revise history or don't quite understand just what we went through during the times of the Wii U, and how much better they are now for the Switch. But before going forward, let me point out that we are aiming for a goal of 40,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. So some of the points that people have made about the Wii U being better than the Switch is that it has Miiverse, that it has Virtual Console, that the online was free, and that it had good games. And those are all nice things about the Wii U. Miiverse was a cool feature. If you don't know about it, it was basically like a Nintendo version of Twitter on the Wii U. You can make social media posts on the Wii U, Miiverse. You can make little drawings, share them with people. In games like Wind Waker HD, you could find Tingle bottles on the seashore and then see posts relating to Wind Waker in these bottles. Or sometimes when you go to Miiverse, you could even see posts from developers. And so there are some cool things about Miiverse, and I do hope Nintendo finds a way to revisit this to some extent in the future. But then beyond that, we also did have a significant Virtual Console. Not only was it NES, Super Nintendo, N64, but also Nintendo DS. You could play Nintendo DS games because of the dual-screen gameplay offered by Wii U. Which reminds me of the off-screen play that the Wii U offered. With that second screen, not only could you play some games with asymmetric gameplay like Nintendo Land, for example, where you could do different things in the gamepad and then others would have a different experience on the TV, but also, if someone wanted to use a TV to say, I don't know, watch football or something like that, you could take your game to another part of the house, assuming it's close enough, and play the game from the gamepad. And so that was a nice, neat little feature that eventually amounted to what we have on the Switch, which is a completely hybrid console, where it's both totally a home console experience, but also totally a portable experience. And that's where the differences between Switch and Wii U start to become blatantly clear. The Wii U was limited. You could only take the off-screen play a few feet away, maybe the next room, but after about 10 or 12 feet, you'll start to see some disconnect issues, and so you couldn't even take it around the whole house unless you lived in kind of a small apartment, and even then, if you try to go to your bedroom with the door closed, it might not work so well. But with the Switch, it's 100% completely a portable system, and also 100% completely a home console system. On Wii U, when you would use off-TV play, you couldn't totally use everything about the console without a big screen. Now, something that people might argue that was nice about the Wii U was how the Wii U had personality. There was more to the menus, there was music, the eShop also had music, and yeah, I did appreciate those nice little personality things that the console had. But also, it was a real pain to navigate and find everything. Trying to get into certain system or settings took a while, and the loading was extremely slow. By comparison to Switch, everything is super snappy and fast. You close out a game, you jump into another, you go to the eShop, and it's just quick. Yes, there isn't music. Yes, there isn't a whole bunch of obvious personality things, but there are some more subtle things. But at the end of the day, the Switch proves to be a more clear-cut, streamlined experience. So if I had to pick between jumping back and forth between my games and settings instantly versus waiting a minute or two just because there's some cool game music or Mii's dancing around, I pick streamlined experience where I can jump in and out of things very quickly. Because those cool personality things on the Wii U are a novelty that wear off. Now, do I hope they come back on Switch too, assuming the system has a overall better performing operating system that can manage the streamlined nature of Switch and have the personality? Sure. But what's better? What we have on Switch. But let's go beyond all the little things and talk about the most important thing. It's the games. There is just so much more to enjoy on the Switch than there is the Wii U. I don't think many people realize just how poor things were for the Wii U. So I am mostly a Nintendo gamer. Most generations I've only owned a Nintendo console. And actually that included the Wii U era for a significant amount of time. I did not own a PS3 or a 360. And I actually didn't pick up a PS4 until around the release of the Nintendo Switch. And so my main source of gaming was the Wii U. And while there were games to enjoy, don't get me wrong, games like Xenoblade Chronicles X, Mario Maker, Splatoon were special games on the Wii U. But every single Nintendo console has had special games for its particular generation. But how does that console compare to every other generation? That's what we're getting at here, and the Wii U pales so much by comparison. I waited for years for that killer app game on the Wii U. It didn't really come until maybe Xenoblade Chronicles X, and Xenoblade's a niche series, but in terms of how I personally enjoy the experience, that's how long I felt I needed to wait. But if you want to talk about mainstream, you could argue maybe Breath of the Wild. But that's mostly thinking from a single player perspective. If you're thinking about multiplayer games, we did get Mario Kart 8, we did get Splatoon, we did get Smash, and those are all wonderful experiences. But they took a few years to come. At launch, we didn't have anything major like a Breath of the Wild. We had Super Mario Bros. U, another 2D Mario game in the same art style that had been used for well over a decade. There was also Nintendo Land, which was basically Nintendo's version of 1-2 Switch or Wii Sports, and while I loved Nintendo Land, it didn't make up for the lack of a big killer app kind of game. And after about a year or so, we had some good games. We had a quality remaster in The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, we had Pikmin 3, which is pretty darn good, and we had Super Mario 3D World, the first proper new 3D Mario game, fairly early on to the console's life. But 3D World, as good as it is, and I 100% did this game, so I feel like if there's anyone that can complain about this game, it's me. It just didn't really measure up to the allure and appeal that we had for other 3D Mario games like Mario 64, like Mario Galaxy, or what we got for Switch in its first year, Mario Odyssey. And a lot of this had to do with the fact that 3D World was basically kind of like a direct sequel to 3D Land. They didn't really do anything grand or new for 3D World. It was just a prettier version of 3D Land with multiplayer. Some of the maps were a little bigger, but they were still mostly limited. You had a limited camera, and it just wasn't like this big revolutionary new 3D Mario game. And that didn't help the Wii U. The Wii U didn't have an experience that made you feel like, man, I need to get a console for this game. Until maybe Splatoon or Mario Kart, and it took some years to get to that point. There were many gaps of time where we didn't have any significant Nintendo releases. Or if we did, that game might not be very good. I think about that last year of Wii U, we had Star Fox Zero, and that was fun, but Star Fox Zero is not considered to be a good Star Fox game. Meanwhile, on Switch, you could argue that the first 9 months of Switch compares quite favorably to the entire lineup that we got for Wii U. So some of the best games on Wii U: Super Mario 3D World, Splatoon 1, Mario Maker, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Mario Kart 8. Alright, not bad. Let's talk about the first year Switch. Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, ARMS, a fantastic new IP, Splatoon 2, Fire Emblem Warriors, Pokken Tournament Deluxe, Snipper Clips, 1-2 Switch, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and Super Mario Odyssey. Maybe you might want to pick the entire Wii U library over the first year Switch, but It shouldn't even really be a debate. 1 year of one console versus the entire generation's worth of a library for another. Let's bring up another random year for Switch. 2022. We had games like Kirby's Forgotten Land, the best Kirby game ever, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Splatoon 3, Pokemon Legends Arceus. We had significant mainline Pokemon games on the Switch, and we're still getting more. Pokemon Legends ZA is due to come out next year. We got Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, we got Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield, and their DLC offerings. And then of course there are the spin-off titles like the Mystery Dungeon series and new Pokemon Snap. Pokemon has just been such a big deal on Switch, you don't have anything like that on Wii U. You also don't have new Metroid games like Metroid Dread or an amazing remaster in Metroid Prime Remastered, or eventually Metroid Prime 4. Every month of Switch pretty much we get a new Nintendo offering, if not more. And yes, there's a variety of remasters, but there's also a variety of new games. And the third-party support is far better than what it was on Wii U. There are tons more games to enjoy. We have games from Bethesda, like Skyrim, and Doom, and Wolfenstein, but just other Microsoft games, like Cuphead for example. And so while the Wii U had some good games and some unique, fun novelties, we had to wait months before getting a game. And for many people, that hardcore killer app didn't come for years, while we've had games kind of like that multiple times per year for the Switch. And then of course the Switch is a fully hybrid console that's both portable and a home console. And it's still going. The Wii U had a short-lived lifespan. If you account for when it eventually got Breath of the Wild back in March of 2017, that would be 4.5 years of support. But by that point, most people who bought Breath of the Wild bought it for the Switch, even if they already had a Wii U, like myself. So you could argue that the console was already dead by that point. And then with the Switch, here we are talking about, well, maybe the Switch 2 comes out once the Switch hits its 8-year anniversary come March 2025. That's basically double the amount of time, and the way things are going, we're expecting that Switch will still receive games even after that time. Because things are going well for the console, Nintendo will want to continue to push it for as long as they can, very much similar to how they handled the 3DS, how it was still receiving support, like actual new game releases, 2 years after the release for the Nintendo Switch. So the point is, the Switch is actually a better value console. It was only priced $300, by the way, when the Switch came out. Still is only $300, but the Wii U was priced at $350. And it only gave you about 4 years worth of games with many droughts, while the Switch is going to be giving you probably more than 8+ years of games with no droughts. So we're talking about like several times more games. And it's a snappier, more streamlined console that you can play in a variety of ways. So it's just far superior to the Wii U. The Wii U was almost like a necessary evil. It was a growing pain situation for Nintendo. They were getting ready for HD development. They were realizing the error in their ways of how they were marketing and how they needed to appeal to the core Nintendo gamer and not grandmas and soccer moms. For the record, if you're a grandma or a soccer mom, I'm not saying you can't like Nintendo. I'm just generalizing here, because they were trying to appeal to people who didn't like playing games back then. And they realized where the focus is, and now the Switch is actually a golden era for Nintendo and signs for even better things to come. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.